In a world that values humility, it can be easy to overlook the power of confidence and self-assurance. At its peak, the Spartan army was the most dominant and feared military force in ancient Greece, and its success was due to the unique attitude and tactics it brought to the art of battle. But there was a driving mindset pushing them. They weren't thinking like mere men. What made the Spartans into godlike men? How did they gain so much dominance? We'll find out all in this video. But before we continue, quickly take a moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on any of our new videos. Civilization like no other Spartan civilization was centered on the development of males, who were the source of power and sheer strength in ancient civilizations. Babies would be washed in wine from birth, and the Spartan soldier would observe how the infant reacted. They would evaluate the baby's strength based on the reaction. The newborn may become a hele, slave, or a Spartan warrior when the simple soldier finishes selecting it, depending on how it reacts. When it came to newborns, Sparta was exceedingly selective. Infanticide was very widespread in Sparta. Some infants would not survive. Thus they would be slaughtered. The Spartan state expects everyone to be strong, and displaying emotions is forbidden. Spartan soldiers not only possessed the skills and training to back up their image as fearsome warriors, but also strengthened that reputation and their effectiveness on the battlefield by creating an exterior look that matched their interior power. The Spartans frightened their adversaries before they could even get within the spear length of them. They stood straight and firm in formation as they awaited the instruction to advance, and everything from their uniforms to their equipment screamed power, discipline, and aggression. Spartan warriors wore a red tunic and cloak, which they shed before combat, because according to Xenophon, the hue was regarded to bear the least resemblance to women's clothing and to be most suitable for war. The last comment gave rise to the legend that red was selected because it masked blood better, thereby disguising a wound and vulnerability from the opponent. The Spartan hoplite, which was an elite special unit of the Spartan army, just like the special ops who are quite badass, had armor and a shield that had been polished to a bright brilliance and glinted in the light over his tunic and hung from his arm. Spartan males wore long hair, a style formerly popular across Greece, but that Lacedaemonians retained after other city-states had changed to shorter cuts. It is said that their long hair represented freedom to the Spartans, who felt that it made the handsome more comely and the ugly more frightful. The Spartans kept themselves well groomed, frequently braiding their long locks and trimming their beards. The Spartans were more multifaceted than is commonly assumed. The city-state was nearly uniformly red, excelled in music and dance, produced sculptors, philosophers, and poets, and of course, participated in various sports and athletics. Nonetheless, they unquestionably focused on one area, cultivating martial skill and virtue. This was the pinnacle of perfection, the sphere where every warrior aspired to ultimate mastery. The Spartans did not dabble in battle. The endeavor ordered and disciplined all culture, education, relationships, and politics. Citizens were forbidden from farming or performing trade and even owning gold or silver coins. Without the distractions of commerce and material acquisition, they might focus entirely on perfecting the warrior's path. So how exactly are these warriors groomed? Are they tested in a lab or infused with the power of Zeus? Haha. The answer is no. They are groomed from a young age into the beast of manhood we know today. Of course, what better way to shape a warrior than to work on the mindset first? A warrior with the mindset of war. We tend to conceive of Spartans as savage, arrogant soldiers. While no combat force could be more readily justified in depending only on their own power and ability, the Spartans were acutely aware of and humbled by the existence of forces larger than themselves. The Spartans were a deeply religious people. They are imbued from an early age with a fear of the gods so powerful that it distinguished them from their fellow Greeks. Piety was, in fact, the foundation of Spartan morale. Oracles were consulted before going on a campaign every morning while on it and shortly preceding combat. Sacrifices were made, and omens were analyzed. Every choice sought the approval or condemnation of the gods, and because of this, religious obligations came before military service. The Spartans' adoration may be described as superstition. Still, it could equally be described as humility, a recognition of and respect for the forces of fate that, regardless of one's talent and preparedness, can influence the result of an attempt and cannot be completely controlled. But control was one thing the Spartan warrior was good at. The ability to balance between endurance and strength was remarkable. Endurance is the foundation of strength. In army combat, tenacity, fortitude, and stamina, pure endurance, were more crucial than agility, intelligence, and speed. Hoplite warriors advanced with their shields, hoping to drive back the enemy line, breach its ranks, and force a retreat. Commitment, discipline, and the strength required to stand one's ground and grind it out were the traits most needed by a Spartan fighter at the time. Courage was undoubtedly required, but not the bravery of adventurous bravado, but the courage of dread holding on for another minute. Once this is understood, one may begin to see the reasoning for the agoges' famed hardships: sparse meals, restricted bathing, a single cloak to wear year-round in all degrees, and mattresses constructed of reeds. And of course, the never-ending rounds of strenuous exercise and sports. As Plato observed, Spartan training was essentially a never-ending series of endurance tests. The goal of such training was not a difficulty for the sake of hardship, but adaptation, a tolerance for pain, and shifting difficult situations, mental toughness that supported physical toughness, and vice versa. The goal was to instill the type of strength most needed by a Spartan warrior, the ability to hold the line under pressure, which is probably why the young boys were never spared in training. A rite of passage, between the ages of 5 and 7, young Spartan boys were removed from their families and placed in the agog, or pack, of other boys for instruction. Here, they learned to compete with the other packs, imparting an early appreciation for the tribal mindset. The agog was a Spartan education institution that taught male adolescents the art of combat. Raising refers to rearing cattle from infancy for a specific purpose. The program was established by the lawgiver Lycurgus late 9th century BCE and was critical to Sparta's military and political success. Spartan males were required to participate in the agog. Girls were not allowed to join the Spartans but were taught at home by their mothers. Boys entered the agog at the age of 7 and graduated at the age of 30 when they were permitted to marry and establish families. Spartan boys learned to read and write by age 10. Throughout their training, they learned to become one with their weapon through dancing. Movement and footwork are essential to the Spartan warrior. As a part of their rite of passage into manhood, their hair was cut short, their tunics replaced with a cloak, and they'd be thrown to the wild to test their merit. In ancient Sparta, they encouraged this natural behavior in boys and toughened them up by having them toughen their feet by walking barefoot. They were fed very little to keep them aggressive and hungry for more. This training was so intense and brutal that some Spartan boys would not survive. The agoge's purpose was to make boys into Spartan soldiers whose devotion was to the state and their comrades in arms, not their families. Literacy was taught in the curriculum, although it was secondary to military training and survival skills. Homoerotic interactions between older and younger candidates were considered everyday aspects of development and maturity in other Greek city-states, but appeared to have been promoted at Sparta to build a stronger tie between the men who would eventually serve in the armed forces. By age 20, the Spartan youth had completed his training and would become a Spartan warrior. Most cities in ancient Greece were well known for their philosophy or culture. They were recognized in ancient Sparta for their soldiers who demonstrated tremendous character and resilience in combat. For the Spartans, courage was not a susceptible and fleeting state of mind, but the result of preparation and practice. They did not appreciate the soldier who battled in a rage. feeling that such loud and violent posturing was employed to conceal one's fear and lack of self-control. Instead, they aimed to represent the ideal of the quiet professional who calmly goes about his business. The Spartans were an ancient culture, but they embodied male, blood, sweat, and raw power. Although their reign was brief, what kind of army do you think they would have had in the 21st century in terms of strength in conquering nations? Comment below. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel to see more videos like this. Bye for now.